Hey everyone, Chef Joe Youkhan here with Western Hospitality Group. I want to share with you today a Baharat braised short rib dish that I love making. And we're going to take short ribs, we're going to braise it with this wonderful spice called Baharat. It has cinnamon, clove, coriander, cardamom, star anise, all these wonderful Middle Eastern flavors. We're going to season our meat. We're going to go through a whole braising process with it. I'm going to show you how we interject some other really great aromatics, and then we're going to build the dish with a charred eggplant hummus. It's kind of like a hybrid of a baba ganoush, and some crispy za'atar chickpeas that go on top. So let's get started. We're going to start off with the short ribs. We're going to get our pan hot. We're going to get this going about medium high, and then we have this wonderful boneless chuck short ribs, and we're going to season it with our Baharat seasoning. You can do this up to a day ahead to really get those flavors in there. And I just have 50-50 the Baharat seasoning with kosher salt, and then simply going to completely coat these short ribs on all their sides with the seasoning blend. So it's probably going to end up for, this is about 2.5 pounds short rib meat, boneless, 100% yield. This is going to be about a good 2 ounces of total seasoning blend, but you know, up to your taste. We just want to lightly coat all sides. Wonderful. Now that we have the short ribs completely coated with our spice mixture, we're going to go ahead and get some really great olive oil in this pan, and we're going to sear them off to get some good caramelization. We want to create this Maillard effect, which is the caramelization of the natural sugars and proteins in the meat, and that's just going to add a lot of flavor to the dish. So we've got a fair amount of olive oil. Whenever I'm cooking Middle Eastern food, I always use a lot of olive oil, and this has about a good 1/4 cup of olive oil. We're going to go ahead and put this in carefully. We have our pan nice and hot. You can hear that sizzle, and that's really going to get a good sear on this. And we're going to keep an eye on it to make sure we don't burn those spices, but that we get a nice crust. Now that we have the short ribs in our pan, we're just going to give it about 2 minutes each side of the short rib. I have them into smaller pieces so we really get a lot of surface area and get the caramelization all the way around. It's just going to be that much more flavor and texture in the dish. So we're going to keep an eye on it and make sure that we don't have anything sticking right away. Because we have our pan preheated, nothing sticking, coming right off the bottom. That definitely lets me know that I have the pan at the right temperature. I'm going to give it a turn and make sure that we get the caramelization on all sides. You can really smell all those warm Middle Eastern spices just really coming through on the olive oil. Such a perfect accompaniment with short ribs. It really can take all those wonderful spices. Now that we have all this wonderful caramelization of the meat, we're going to remove it, and then we're going to get continuing on our recipe. We're going to start introducing our aromatics. We're just going to use mirepoix, which is a combination of onions, carrots, celery, garlic, and then we're going to add some more Middle Eastern spices to this mix. And we're going to show you how we're going to get even more depth of flavor happening. So first off, now that our meat is out, we're going to add our aromatics very carefully to this hot pan. That's approximately 2 cups of onions, 1 cup of celery, 1 cup of carrot, because we want all the natural flavors to release out of these vegetables, all the water to come out. We're going to add about a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now that the vegetables are now sweated down and you can really smell all their flavor and perfume coming out, we're going to continue with more aromatics. So here we have fresh garlic and black garlic. Black garlic is just simply fermented garlic. We ferment our own for about 192 hours. Really fun to do, simple process. You just get a garlic fermenter, hit the button, let it rock. So we got our garlic in there, and we're going to add some more flavor here. We have bay leaf, which I always use whenever I'm braising. Also goes amazingly well with beef. We have Aleppo chilies, and we have also some sumac, wonderful Middle Eastern flavors. Going to go in here and just really fortify everything that we're doing. Lastly, to add some wonderful umami and body to the dish, We have tomato paste, approximately 1 tablespoon, and we have tukas, which is this red pepper paste, which I absolutely love. And that's just basically red peppers that have been either roasted or dried and then pureed. And now we want to caramelize the tomato paste, the Aleppo, the sumac with the tukas, all with our mirepoix. You want to make sure that when you add the tomato paste in there that you actually cook it out, because it's going to add a whole other layer of flavor, complexity, and caramelization. Next up, we're going to add a little bit more sweetness to balance out all these warm flavors. And we have pomegranate molasses, another amazing Middle Eastern ingredient. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of this. You could add honey, you could add sugar. You can go as little as much. We're going to go 2 tablespoons. It's pretty strong, but it's a flavor that you're really going to enjoy in here. Next up, we're going to deglaze with red wine. We're using a Barolo here. I just love this wine. A lot of structure in this wine, a lot of great acidity. It's going to be a huge backbone for all this beef. You can use as little as 1 cup. You can do half a bottle. I'm literally going to use the whole bottle. Now we want to just scrape the bottom off. We have all that wine in there, all the aromatics. And we really want to make sure that there's nothing sticking to the bottom. And you can really smell all those spices and aromatic vegetables and the black garlic and now all that wonderful wine. Now you really want to kind of cook this down for just a bit. You want the flavor of the wine and you want the acidity and the structure, but you don't want to taste the alcohol. So right now we're going to let this simmer for just a few minutes to cook off some of that alcohol. Now that we've cooked off the wine for a few minutes, we're going to introduce some beef stock. If you have some homemade chicken stock, beef stock, please feel free to use it. Amazing, gives it even more body. Here we have some beef broth. This one is organic from Trader Joe's, and we're just going to go ahead and add about 1 liter of this to the pot. It's a lot, but it's going to reduce all the way down while we're braising it. We're going to further reduce it for more intense flavor. So I'm literally going to add an entire box of this Trader Joe's beef broth. Or if you're using homemade stock, 1 liter, more than enough. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this into a 325-degree oven. We're gonna let this braise for about 3 hours till it's super tender. And we're just gonna let this kind of do its thing, uncovered. It's gonna naturally reduce down. It's gonna intensify in flavor. And the beef is gonna get fork tender. I wanna show you one of the components to our Baharat braised short rib dish. It's just confit of chickpeas that we're gonna let cook until it gets a little crispy. So it's super simple. We're using canned chickpeas here. Feel free to cook from scratch, dry chickpeas, but I think canned chickpeas work really well. I just simply drain them really well and they're ready to go. So over medium-high heat, I'm going to use a fair amount of olive oil. This is literally going to be just kind of like stewing in olive oil. The olive oil is a component of this. So we're going to put a half a cup of really good olive oil. This is a Middle Eastern olive oil that we're using. And we're going to use 2 15-ounce cans of already cooked chickpeas that I've already drained. So what we simply want to do is cook the chickpeas until the desired crispiness. You can cook it till they're just soft and tender with the flavor. You can cook until all the moisture is gone and they're super crispy. Just depends on the texture that you're looking for. We're going to cook these for a good 10 minutes at a medium-high heat while stirring. And towards the end of the cooking process, we're going to simply season it with a teaspoon of Aleppo, a teaspoon of sumac. We're going to be using a good solid teaspoon of za'atar, just a pinch of the Baharat seasoning, a pinch of salt, and that's going to go with our 2 15-ounce cans of chickpeas. And it's going to be wonderful to eat on its own, put it on top of all kinds of dishes, and here we're going to use it with our braised short rib dish. So it's been about 10 minutes, and we've been simmering these chickpeas in good olive oil. These are beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and stir them up. Right about the end of the cooking time, where you got it to right around the crispiness that you want, is when you want to introduce the seasonings. We're going to add 1 teaspoon each sumac and Aleppo chili. We're going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of our Baharat seasoning blend and a good pinch of kosher salt. We're just gonna cook this for about another minute to let all those spices bloom and cook with the chickpeas. Now that they've been cooking and all the flavors are bloomed in there, we're gonna give it a taste, see where we're at. So delicious. All that richness of the olive oil and the garbanzo beans, the chickpeas, it's almost buttery. I'm gonna add one more pinch of salt. Give that a stir. There is a lot of olive oil in here and we want that. As it sits, it gets even better. 1 or 2 days, all the flavors really come together nicely and that olive oil is gonna be a part of the dish as well. We're just gonna set this off to the side and continue with our braised short rib dish. We're gonna make our charred eggplant hummus or a baba ganoush hybrid. It's basically baba ganoush with pureed chickpeas. So what we did here, and this is the secret to the entire dish for baba ganoush or any kind of charred eggplant dish, is really charring the eggplant. So we put this over live coals. So we just did some briquettes, we cooked it down to a radiant heat, and then we literally put the eggplant directly on the coals, directly on the fire to just char them up. You can smell how smoky they are, it's amazing. So we simply just open up the skins. This is after it's cooled. You char them about 30 to 40 minutes, you take them out, you put them in a container, you let them steam, they're super tender, and then they're ready to use. And you have all this wonderful, smoky, delicious eggplant pulp. You can use larger eggplants. I like the smaller ones. I think they're a little bit sweeter and less bitter, and they have less seed pockets. So I really, really like the smaller eggplants. So here we have about 2 full cups of the eggplant puree. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a food processor. And we're going to add our chickpeas first. So this is a 15-ounce can of cooked chickpeas. And we're going to puree this with some aromatics to get this pureed nice and smooth first before we put our eggplant puree in. So chickpeas go in. To that we're going to add some fresh garlic and black garlic. So this is just dehydrated black garlic. It's about 1 teaspoon, and this is about 1 teaspoon of fresh garlic smashed. Lemon juice, super, super important. You can go as heavy on this as you want. This is a good solid 1/4 cup, and it's very important that you use fresh lemon juice, not the concentrate. We're gonna add a pinch of our Baharat seasoning, and we're gonna add a good pinch of kosher salt. Okay, lastly, before we get our eggplant puree in there, tahini. So tahini is just a ground up sesame seed paste. This is an absolutely amazing ingredient, very versatile, and we're gonna add about 2 ounces or 1/4 cup of our tahini puree in here as well. Let's get this puree in first. Now that we've had that puree down, we're going to go ahead and introduce all our eggplant pulp. While the machine is running, we're going to go ahead and put in a good 1/4 cup of olive oil while it's running to get it to a smooth puree. You can add a little as much as you like. Sometimes I'll just drizzle on top for a garnish. All right, let's give it a taste. It's smoky, sweet, acidic from the lemons in the best way, rich from the olive oil. I like another little pinch of salt here. Good heavy pinch. And another little, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I did about a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons approximately. But this is to taste. The more olive oil, just gonna be that much richer and more flavorful. But the tahini's in there, it's just a beautiful dish. We definitely have the texture we're looking for. We just want a nice smooth puree. This is a wonderful dip on its own with some pita chips or some crudités and raw vegetables. So we're just gonna simply take this and put it in a bowl. You can put a piece of wrap on top or put an airtight container and put this in your fridge for up to 5 days. It's amazing cold, it's amazing warm. And there you have it. Hummus or baba ganoush hybrid. All right, our short ribs have been braising for about 3 hours. We're gonna go check on them, make sure they're nice and tender and delicious. You'll notice how much more it's reduced down, so quite literally by half. You can really smell all the wonderful flavors. So now we just gotta simply plate it up, super rustic. We have our charred eggplant baba ganoush here with our puree of chickpeas and tahini with lemon juice and olive oil. And we're just gonna put a couple dollops here, and we're just gonna kind of smear it around so we have a nice little landing zone for our short ribs in the jus. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna grab a couple of nice tender pieces of short rib. Oh yeah, these things are fork tender, so I'm gonna grab myself 2 pieces. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and get some of that jus in here. Definitely don't want to sleep on that. All the flavors are concentrated in that broth now. So we're just gonna put a couple of spoonfuls here on top. And then lastly, our chickpeas that we stewed with za'atar, Aleppo, sumac, and that really wonderful olive oil. Nice and crispy, all those flavors are coming together. We want the chickpeas and the olive oil all on top of our short ribs. It's gonna give a wonderful texture. You're gonna tie the whole dish together. And then lastly, we're just gonna garnish this with some fresh parsley. Makes it beautiful. It also gives it a really wonderful fresh flavor. And there it is, our black garlic braised Baharat short ribs with our charred eggplant baba ganoush, our crispy chickpeas with za'atar.